as long as you believe in the work and do the work.
But first of all, I don't want to be your poster child.
Solidarity is critical to getting this done. Allies are important.
Show me that I provide value to the business.
Is just one more way that some have tried to diminish, dismiss, and disavow the reality of systemic racism.
Be with us in crisis as well as celebration, but be consistent about it.
Hey, Kim, how are you?
I'm really good. June's coming up. That's why I'm really good.
June's coming up, and June is Pride Month. We always talk about holidays and how not to be performative. June is Pride Month. They got a whole month to not be performative. Tell me how that happens.
And yet they do. Organizations will slip into
whole month, right?
Communications, and it's called pinkwashing. So a lot of companies will tend to, go to plans that they've done before with the same people who made decisions before with the same kind of budget that they had before and change the graphics, from 21 to 22 or whatever year. And we change the corporate logo into rainbows and, throw a rainbow flag into our social media. And that's about it, and that is absolutely 1,000% performative. Now, I recently made a LinkedIn post where I talked about, we say that we hire qualified candidates. Is your brand qualified to speak about Pride Month? Or would we evaluate the performance and say, your brand is actually low performing and is not getting us results? So in that case, then the brand would be, on a, it might be performance managed out, because you're no longer qualified to be speaking and standing up for Pride and speaking out on Pride, because the 3 C's that I talk about are celebrate. And that's what organizations get right, is the celebration. Okay. But then there's the crisis.
True.
So you celebrate the community. Yes, thank you. The visibility is lovely. Thank you so much. But you can't stop there. There's the crisis that's going on. Look at over 250 bills in the United States being introduced that are anti-trans, anti-LGBTQ+. Okay, this is not okay. There's not enough emphasis from organizations to stand for the Equality Act. There is a lot of political action committee donations going to the wrong people who are writing this very legislation.
Right.
So you don't get to celebrate and change your corporate logo. We don't want to have an employee that's just doing the bare minimum and say that they get a bonus and they get to keep their job. No, as a brand, you don't get to just stay and celebrate. You got to be there in crisis. And then the 3rd C, you got to be consistent about it. Right. So take Black History Month. Typically, when people are doing Pride Month in visuals and visual representation, it's a whole lot of white people and a whole lot of white men.
Yeah,
and that absolutely is part of the community. But there are queer women, queer Black women. There are Two-Spirit, Native American and Indigenous peoples. There are trans women, trans men. There's a lot of stories to be told there. And keep in mind, if you want to tell those stories, there's trauma there because of heteronormativity in our workplace and in our culture. There's a lot of people who don't feel safe being out. It's a physical safety, it's a psychological safety, it's an emotional safety. So how qualified are you as a brand to be speaking out on Pride? If I did an evaluation of your performance, would you meet expectations or nobody's getting exceed? Nobody's getting exceed expectations.
I think it's amazing when you talk about the diversity within the diversity. That's what we don't think about. We are very monolithic in our view. That's not the word I really want, but I mean, we basically have a very basic vision of this. We focus in on a diverse group. Okay. And then we don't understand that that diverse group is diverse within itself. So like you mentioned, there are different cultural norms within that space, that one group of people who would be celebrated in Pride Month one way are going to be celebrated differently in their own community. So if you don't know that, you're lumping everybody together. You're not getting those nuances. You're not qualified to celebrate this. You have to know. And that way, if you choose to celebrate one group over the other, at least you know what you're doing and you have a reason. I think that's a fascinating thought. I don't think people think about it that way, and they should.
Absolutely. My girlfriend's cousin is a gay male who is deaf. He doesn't see
Mm,
himself represented, as a person with disabilities, right? He doesn't see himself represented in Pride. So we need to broaden our understanding of the application, but I got to reiterate it again, that crisis part, you don't get to change your logo to a rainbow flag if you're allowing, but staying silent and or contributing financially to these anti-LGBTQ plus, specifically anti-transgender legislation going on, and not standing up for the Equality Act. It's not okay. You're absolutely going to be performative that way.